I'm Stephen Malitz, and this is the Entrepreneur Advisor. Okay, here's a great question. How do I avoid risk as a seller of goods? Having represented many manufacturers, I see this question come up. And I understand these deals are done by handshakes or by telephone calls. But it's very easy to prepare a short, non-complicated contract for the sale of goods that minimizes risk and protects you. Let's go over some of the key provisions. Here's the first key term, the attorney's fees provision. The general rule, the American rule, is that each side bears its own attorney's fees in court. Well, you don't want that. If your buyer doesn't pay for your goods, you want to be able to recover the purchase price for the goods as well as the attorney's fees, so you are made whole. You want a provision that reads that the prevailing party in any dispute regarding the sale of goods gets its attorney's fees. That way you get the purchase price for the goods and you get your attorney's fees. You're made whole. This provision will discourage breach by your buyer. Next provision, limitation on liability. True story. You sell goods for $100,000 to broker. Broker in turn sells those goods to automaker. Automaker incorporates those goods in its vehicles. There's an alleged failure of the goods, and automaker is required to recall its vehicles. Automaker sues broker not for $100,000 but for $1 million for its lost profits for the recall, and then the broker sues you not for the $100,000 but for the $1 million. What do? To avoid this problem from occurring in the first place, we would insert a limitation on liability that limits broker's claim against you to the purchase price of the goods and prevents the broker from seeking lost profits against you. This provision could avoid disaster because there may not be insurance coverage for this type of loss. Next provision, risk of loss. Another true story. You sell goods to buyer pays for the goods, comes to your property and supervises the loading of all the goods into his shipping containers. But he tells you, look, let me come by tomorrow and pick up the containers with my trailers. I'll leave them with you overnight. As an accommodation to your buyer, you agree. But overnight, the goods are stolen. What happens? Insurance might not cover this loss because you no longer own the goods. To avoid this problem from occurring in the first place, we would insert a risk of loss provision in the contract for the sale of goods, reading that as soon as buyer pays for the goods and takes possession of them, that's it. All risk is assumed by the buyer. This provision avoids risk. Next key term, warranty disclaimer. The general rule under the Uniform Commercial Code is that goods must be fit for their ordinary purposes. Well, what happens if you sell goods to buyer and buyer uses your goods in a way that you never contemplated? The goods fail and the buyer sues you for the price of the goods and his lost profits. How do we avoid this from happening in the first place? Because insurance might not cover this loss. We will prepare a provision disclaiming warranties. The provision must be conspicuous, must be bolded out, of a certain size font, must be obvious, and must be specific. The warranty disclaimer will avoid risk. Next key term, form selection provision, choice of law. Let's say you sell goods to a buyer who is 2,000 miles away. He doesn't pay for the goods. You certainly do not want to close down your business and travel 2,000 miles away with your employees for depositions and for trial. Instead, to avoid this from happening in the first place, we will insert a provision requiring your buyer to come to court on your turf where you're comfortable in courts that you know, and those courts will apply your law. Such a provision will discourage breach from your buyer because he certainly doesn't want to come to your forum to deal with suit. In order to minimize your risk as a seller of goods, we've covered some key terms that should be in a written contract for the sale of goods. If you have any questions regarding today's topics, please let me know. Thank you. If you have found this material useful and entertaining, please share it, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell for notifications of future episodes. Also, please take a look at the playlist for prior episodes. Thank you for watching The Entrepreneur Advisor.